1965, another hippie and I had been busted for sleeping in the veranda of a deserted mansion in Elizabeth Bay back in the hippie days. Coppers didn't like hippies at all. They'd give you a vagrancy lag and any time they could if they caught you without any money. So I got 6 months because I had a record, and this hippie kid that was with me, he got 1 month. But I thought, well, I'll exist in the now, and I won't let the state squash my spirit. And at 4 p.m, the Black Maria van pulls into the alley behind Darlinghurst Courts and takes everyone to Long Bay. Crim sat on a long steel bench that ran the length of the van, handcuffed in pairs. It was a big van. We sat in one of two parallel corridors. Between us was a sheet of steel between the two rows of Crims, so there's no contact between us, the two rows. The only light came through a 1/2 by 4-inch ventilation slit. Our backs rested against the outer wall and we faced inward. It allowed 14 inches of room for feet. The long hard seat held 8 blokes, 3 smoking rolled tobacco and 2 drawing on grouse tailor-made cigarettes. We were handcuffed to each other. Smoke stung the eyes. A knowledgeable voice from the blackness said, "Have a good smoke while you can, 'cause screws take 'em away when you get to the bay. Every Thursday you'll get 2 ounces of boob weed. You won't get your tailor-mades back." And a young bloke said, "Bugger that, no screw bastard's taking my fags. I'll biff the cunt who tries." And an old lag, cackling like a witch in The Wizard of Oz, said, "That's the way, son. Don't let 'em stand over you. You go down fighting." His chuckle produced phlegm, so he cleared his throat and removed the round glutinous ball of congestion with his finger and wiped it under the seat. A tough-looking bloke handcuffed to me said, "You dirty old bugger. You're sticking your bloody cancerous old guts under our nice clean seat that we gents are sitting on." I could tell he was joking. The old fella said, "I never did." Then a few seconds later he said, "How the bloody hell could you know that?" Everyone laughed. We were heading to jail, but we were enjoying the trip. It was the last precious minutes outside the rotten place. My handcuffed mate said, "People with coughs and blokes with TB have been wiping globs of gunk under them seats since boob wagons were made in 1954. You get a torch and have a jerry under there, you'll find 240 dried up bits of gunk wipe." I joked about using the gunk as chewing gum. 2 men managed to stand and twist around and look at the Kensington footpath going by outside. Staring through the slit, they filled themselves with the bittersweet snapshots of the city they loved and were no longer a part of. The van entered the driveway under Long Bay's massive old walls. Someone said, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." And he looked around wondering why nobody laughed. My guts felt weak, but it was time to switch to hero. I strode along in line as if it was another dull day in my life and channeled James Cagney, but didn't look too cocky or sure as hell some tough guy would test the illusion. We were stripped. Don't stand with hands on hips when you're naked. I mean, it's okay to stand with 2 hands on hips, but if you stand with 1 hand on hip, people might think you're a cat. A cat was a homosexual, and a dog was a squealer or a give-up back then. I'm not sure which was despised more back in the 60s. I was issued baggy denim pants and a blue-grey cotton jacket, and a number was put on our jacket front and back, and our shirt, I think. I can't remember. As soon as I walked into my slot, I saw it contained bunks for 3 men. In the barber shop, my hippie hair was cut very short back and sides. One could only have long hair if you belonged to the religious group, the House of David. But I never saw one in jail. I never saw one of that group in jail. I was sent to the yard, and at 4 p.m. we lined up. And my cellmates were two young tough bastards, and they sat on their beds to eat, seemed to be pals, and talked about what had happened that day. I wasn't included once they found out I was in there for trespassing, and I was relieved not to chit-chat. Sometimes during the night I woke up and I heard occasional curses from one cell calling to another, and someone would yell for them, "Shut up! Shut the fuck up, you buggers!" And that would cause another cell to yell, "Shut up, you!" So you yell, "Shut up, you cunts!" There were no toilets in 66, only a shit tub. And my hippie mate, he went to another cell. He got raped his first night. I heard this a year later when I saw him and his girlfriend in King's Cross. My two cell mugs must have complained I was too boring, because happily I got moved to a cell containing a wimpy guy and an Aboriginal kid who loved Bob Dylan. There was a radio pop station piped into our cells. It had an on-off switch and a volume control, so we could sing pop music every night, but we didn't sing loud, or else the next cell might have complained. After dumping the shit tubs in the morning, we'd have a fag, then eat breakfast in our cell. It was usually a chop and a wheat-based porridge called burgoo. Coffee was unheard of in Aussie jails. If anyone went crazy, he'd be taken to the OBS block, the observation block, where the single cells had no furniture except for a rubber shit tub and a thin rubber mattress. There were some padded cells, and if the patient was violent to himself or others, he'd be stuck in a straitjacket until he settled down. Next to the OBS was the chat's yard. A chat was an old bloke who wouldn't or couldn't wash and was deemed filthy in appearance or bodily habits. I wished I could stay with these old blokes to get away from the crude idiots in my yard. Sometimes old blokes were put in jail back then because they had the delirium tremens from grog withdrawal. Each cell was crammed with 4 bunks, but I envied the chats. They could sit in the sun telling yarns, or stay in bed all day if they liked. In winter, that would have been great, although the yard sometimes smelt very slightly of stale piss. Yeah. Oh, I give you some Bathurst tales next time.